Thanks for joining me today. My name's Carl Fluke, and I work at Coinbase as a developer relations. And today I just want to walk through kind of building on Base. So first off, Base is for builders. The main reason that we wanted to launch our own L2 is that we wanted to start building all of our products on-chain. So the main kind of ethos for Base was that Coinbase needed a place to actually build our products from the ground up on-chain. So we've been a legacy exchange for a while, and it's been due time for us to start to rebuild some of those functionalities to be on-chain by default. So high-level agenda, I'm going to give you kind of like the 5 to 10 minute pitch of like why did we do Base, what was the basis of it, run through the ecosystem that we have. Base has been live for 2.5 to 3 months now, and kind of walk through all the tools that are available in your toolkit to build with, and then end with kind of what were the bounties that we did for this hackathon. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Coinbase. We've been around for a long time. Internally, we kind of joke that Base is like the biggest off-chain L2 out there. Our exchange has 120 some billion assets on it, and we want to slowly start to move those assets to be truly on-chain. So that's why we started it. So kind of like the thesis that is the core thing for Base is that we truly believe that on-chain is the next online. So when we go back to like when I was a kid, there was Blockbusters, there was Fry's. We didn't really have the internet. You had to go to the store. You had to go get your GameStop, Xbox, or GameCube, Xbox game. You'd rent them. You'd return them. That was the way that information moved back and forth. Then the internet started. Broadband rolled out. We actually had real internet. Things like WordPress came out to where people could make a blog, and it was an easy way to like read and write information. So the world kind of evolved from, hey, you had to go to this store to get information, you had to go to the library, you had to go to a store, to, hey, I can go to this website. And then additionally, I could go make my own website, and like a normal consumer could be able to read and write to the internet. And then we're in today's world, which is slowly and steadily switching the whole, I have to go to this website and trust them to read or publish information, to where I can, once again, like truly own my own data and what information I want to share. So the big other switch is that permissionless is finally possible. So when I deploy to a blockchain, it is truly permissionless. There isn't Google or Amazon that says you cannot post this content or kind of be the gatekeeper. And then lastly, we can just build new kind of products now that we have blockchain available to us at the scale that we do. So our big thesis is that we've been watching Ethereum grow since it came out in 2018. And as more users grow, then we get developers to actually build tools for them. So that's part of why we're here. We want more builders to be building on blockchain by default. And then as more developers come, then they can actually start to make use cases. Some of these are very Web 2 focused. So here we have like our partner Zora, who's bringing NFTs. We have Farcaster, which is doing social media. There's a few social media companies that are getting bigger. Blackbird, if you're ever in New York, they're a fantastic restaurant loyalty company where they're more or less bringing like coupons and incentives to go to certain restaurants or bars on-chain. Parallel is bringing some gaming on-chain. You may have seen like Iskra launched Clashmon. There's a few like decently large games that are coming on-chain. So we have more users. That brings developers to build things for them. Those developers have use cases, and ultimately that means that the transaction volume on-chain continues to grow. So we're kind of in this layer 2 transition now to where more and more of the transactions are happening on layer 2, and we're going to see that continue to surpass Ethereum as the main way to scale it. So although we've made decent progress now, ultimately there's only like 10 million people on-chain. So that is a long, long way to go to truly bring all of those users to be on-chain. So some super quick history since we're developers here. 2012, Coinbase opened. We were Bitcoin buy, sell, hold. Our first big on-chain activity was USDC. So in partnership with Circle, we launched a stablecoin. Shortly after, we started to really focus on Coinbase Wallet, which is a non-custodial wallet. So it truly is like a crypto native wallet. And then last year, we started to focus on liquid staking. We launched a Web3 wallet, which was bringing kind of that non-custodial wallet in a multi-party computation way to our retail users. And then today we have Base. So we say here like maybe we were 10% on chain before. It's probably closer to 5, but like with Base, we do truly plan to rebuild most of our products to be on chain by default. All right, so what is Base? A lot of people ask like why did we choose OP Stack? So Optimism Stack is what Base is based on. So the biggest part is that it is a layer 2 and that it uses ETH as the native gas currency. So our incentives are very much aligned with Ethereum. It also uses the L1 as security. So we do highly recommend using the default bridge to move assets from the Ethereum L1 to Base. And that just means that we actually can trust Ethereum L1 for those being secure and that the data availability is stored on Ethereum itself. Another big part of the OP stack is that it's MIT licensed, so that is as open source as it can be. Coinbase was the second core contributor to the Optimism code base, so I think we have a little over 5% of their code base has been written by Coinbase employees, and that'll continue to rise. I'm actually super excited that we did fault proofs on testnet last week, so that's a big step in moving Optimism to being more decentralized, or any OP stack. And yeah, the last part is low cost. So right now, gas costs on Base are much cheaper than mainnet. It's like 10 to 25 cents to mint NFTs. The next major upgrade is Ethereum Denkun, which should reduce gas costs by like another 80%. And that's truly when we think even more consumer applications can be built on chain. So I mentioned we're the second core developer. The other big thing that we love about the Optimism Collective is the retroactive public goods fund. So essentially once a quarter they go through and people can apply for what development did they do on Optimism or any of the OP stack blockchains, and you can apply to get retroactive funding. So this is just showing that, hey, I built this thing, it has on-chain usage, it was a public good, it helped raise the community a little bit in some way, and it's just kind of a different way of doing funding. All right, so we've opened in early August. It's had on-chain summer. I'm just curious, did anybody do anything for on-chain summer? Were they aware that that happened? We got one? Okay. I may open that later just to show how much was going on during it. So although we're only 2 or 3 months old, we have quite the ecosystem built up. You'll see some of these use cases. Sorry if I missed anybody that is here, but we have decent market penetration with just quite a bit more to go. I'll let you guys see if you recognize any of these. All right. So far, these numbers are a little bit old. I think last time I looked on L2 Beats, we got a little over 500 million TVL, and then our TPS has continued to stay around 12 to 14, which is well above what we expected. Base is the fastest growing L2, so that actually surprised us as well. We hit 100,000 users within 30 days. This chart does show that we were in private preview. Can you actually see my mouse? Yeah, we were in private preview for like a month to let tier 1 partners actually deploy so that we had everything ready for our public launch for regular consumers, and then it kind of took off. So I talked about Coinbase kind of wants to rebuild our products to be on-chain. So to kind of like really explain that, on the compute layer we have Base. So we have an L2. We actually have a blockchain we can trust. We have the sequencer infrastructure. We can do monitoring. It helps us. So on top of that, we can start to rebuild some of the tools we have today. So we have a crypto to fiat on-ramp. It supports, I think we have like 32 blockchains and right under 300 assets. It's like 270. But we can start to make that an even better experience for being on Base. Identity. So a couple weeks ago, Ethereum attestation service launched on Base. It launched on all OP stacks, I believe, and that's just a way that we could attest to specific attributes of a user, which would help additional DeFi cases. We have wallet as a service, and then we have some additional dev tools. Some of those aren't public yet, but just think additional ways to like verify smart contracts and security scanning. After that, we have consumer dApps. So most of that is actually third-party dApps today. So just anything in the Ethereum ecosystem, we're slowly helping help motivate to deploy on Base. But I think more importantly is we also have institutional dApps. One exciting announcement this week is that with Backed Finance, they're launching tokenized US Treasury bills on-chain. So that's a way to actually get the Treasury bill yield on-chain and be able to distribute that in a DeFi manner. We have distribution, so if anybody's done like learning rewards or wallet quests, these are like paid, make sure the user actually completes an action on your website, and a way to distribute your token to them. And then lastly, like our wallet infrastructure. Is anybody actually a user of Coinbase Wallet? We got one, all right. In my opinion, we've started to be better than MetaMask, but it's definitely both are very good. And then there's a bunch of third-party wallets out there too. Another big announcement that we had a month or so ago is we do have an institutional wallet. So this would let like big financial institutions be able to, in a safe way, using a multi-party computation wallet, interact with DeFi. So it would use like their current consensus methods. With big banks, you have to do like 5 approvers to say, hey, I actually want to put, $1 million into this curve pool. So now that we have Base, we can start to move a bunch of those tools to be actually built on-chain by default. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a run-through of kind of like where the ecosystem is. EtherScan, I probably don't need to explain. It's been around the longest. We just have our own version. It's Base Scan, and there's a Goerli Base Scan. For redundancy, the second one we did was Block Scout, so that was just a way so that we have failover. When we do an upgrade to EtherScan, we can always fall back to Block Scan and back and forth. There's a couple new players. So RouteScan is actually focused on the OP stack. If you haven't seen them, check it out. I think it's actually SuperScan is like the app name, but that makes it so that all L2s are side by side to see blocks and transactions, which is incredibly helpful if you're bridging. And then some other ones, DexGuru, Tenderly. Tenderly, if you haven't heard of them, is actually a great partner too. They do a bunch of like testnets as a service. So if you want to spin up on their website saying, hey, I want a clone of Base Goerli and I want it to run for the next 3 weeks, you can share it across your dev teams, deploy contracts, and kind of have a shared testnet to test against. Node providers, there's a ton out there. I don't really want to dive too much into the RPC providers. There's a good actual geolocation separation of these, and then a combination of good indexing for NFTs and transactions. And then likewise, if you need things like webhooks to notify you of smart contract transactions or of balance updates, like QuickNode and DRPC offer some tools for that. Oracles, so a big thing. If you need off-chain data on the actual blockchain to be able to do things with, we have a few providers of these. So Chainlink and Pyth are probably the biggest two. They give us real asset data feed for stocks and the main crypto tokens on the network. Supra, VRF, and Redstone, the main value add they have is verifiable random functions. So if you need to do anything that requires a random number, that is a way to actually get that on chain. And it's, I think Supra is quantum verifiable, and Redstone has a different way of knowing that it's truly a random function, or random value. Data and indexers. So the graph is here, and then we also have covalent and subquery. So if you need to do a custom subgraph indexing, those tools are available. I think I'm actually missing a couple here that were added last week, but growing that. Cross-chain messaging. So if you're trying to do anything in between multiple blockchains, you have to have a protocol that lets you handle finality from, say, Base and Polygon, or Base and Optimism. Then all of these are protocols that let you send those messages in a verifiable way. This is also kind of the base protocols to be able to create a bridge. So Axelar has Squid Router, Layer 0 has Stargate Finance, and I'm blanking on Wormhole. But those are also third-party bridges that if you want to move assets in between chains, those are the tools to do so. Tool chains. I don't know, how many people do we have that are actual developers here today? Got a couple. All right. So I'm sure your Foundry, Hardhat are kind of the two biggest. Foundry is your testing Solidity and Solidity. Hardhat is for the JavaScript developer. So obviously those are supported. You just got to switch out your chain ID and RPC endpoints. Third Web is a company we work with a lot. They just add like code generation on top of smart contracts just to make like React components and things like that easier. So if you haven't heard of them. And then Truffle. Truffle's been around forever, and we continue to support it. And then lastly, clients for the developers. Has anybody switched to using VM? Not yet. So yeah, Ethers and Web3.js are like have been around for 4 or so years. VM's kind of the new one. It's a rewrite. So if you haven't checked it out, that's what I use now by default, VM and WAGMI. They're very nice tools. Okay, so that was kind of like my ecosystem run through. I went through that super quick. If you're interested in building on Base, our Discord is actually very active. We do have sections for front-end developers, back-end, if you want infra help, or if you want any kind of indexing or NFT support. We do actively monitor that. Okay, so lastly, we just have what is our bounty. So we actually made this fairly straightforward just to kind of work with all the other bounty providers here. So we just wanted you to build a user-friendly consumer product. So this would be something that anybody could use. Kind of ignore the whole connect your wallet part, but as far as like, hey, I go to this website and I want to do this thing, is a normal person capable of doing so? And does it kind of showcase behind the scenes some crypto things? So some examples here were like build a subscription payment. So make that easier to actually manage. So do some combination of I have a token, I want to permit, and have a permissionless way to do that payment once a month, something of that nature. Make DAOs easier to join. So if you use like Tally or Nouns Builder or another DAO tool, how do you help make that ecosystem? How do you get people to join it? And kind of like what mechanisms do you want to do there? And then before Q&A, I will just show one of my favorite kind of like consumer products. Okay, this looks fine. So this is called Base Paint. It's just like a fun example of being a consumer product that is kind of a DAO. It's kind of using 1155s. It's a mix-up of things, but it's very consumer friendly. So once a day, people can vote on what theme do they want a piece of art to be. So they can choose, these are the ones today. But once that is voted upon, you have 24 hours to vote. Afterwards, pixel artists can essentially make whatever the theme of that art is. So I think the theme for today is Vitalik. They have 4 hours left to finish this art piece. So if you've done Reddit ArtPlace, it's very similar to that. They're making a piece of art in a time window. Once that finishes, that gets published as an 1155, and you can mint it for a full day. So you have 24 hours that you can mint this art piece. Yesterday was Party DAO. Party Protocol launched on Base, I believe, which is just a protocol to do like, you could group buy an NFT, or you can kind of specify a list of transactions you want to do and create a group. So you can mint that. And then lastly, you kind of have your history of everybody that's done these art pieces. So the main thing I want to call out is, so like Star Wars here, there were 707 people that minted this NFT. A little under 600 artists actually had pixels that were in the end result. The mint value collected was 1.65 ETH, and so 90% of that profit goes to those artists, based on how many pixels they had in the piece of artwork. So that's kind of a way of showing that like you're incentivizing the artist to make a piece of art, and they are getting kind of like the percentage distribution of the profit. And they have some fun ones in here, right? Like we have dogs, so a nice mix-up. Final Fantasy got in there. Lots of fun themes. Which one do I want to show? I like Hitchhikers. I was a fan. I like Lynn's Garden. So it's kind of just like this is a fun consumer thing that is truly like community. You have artists that are incentivized to do it. Plenty of people think these are entertaining. And it makes that kind of nice flywheel. Okay, so that's just an example of a consumer product. Lastly, if you want to get started in development, if you guys aren't developers and you want to actually try, we do have this program called Basecamp. It runs you through the basics of Solidity, and you get like NFT badges as you go through it. So it kind of does like a beginner to intermediate Solidity. It goes through going through token standards, and then it goes through like doing a project. Every month or two, we do also have like an in-person, or not in-person, a virtual like 25-person-ish cohort that we will actually kind of go through an 8-week program going through this, but a little bit more. And so if you also are interested in that experience, it should be live shortly. Okay, and then lastly, we can do Q&A. Does anybody have any questions about Base or bounties? Coinbase in general? Go for it.
Okay, I was really curious because I'm really interested in loyalty and rewards. How does it work in the wallet when like you're getting rewards for everything you spend, but every month it changes the percentage?
So inside the retail app?
Yeah. And like, could we add those features to like DeFi apps that we build?
Yeah, so slightly complicated answer. So in the retail app, we do have a changing APY based on what assets you have staked. So what we're actually doing is once you stake them, we are creating a wallet on your behalf. We are doing the transaction to stake that to a validator. It is a mix of Coinbase operated validators and third-party validators, just based on our like, risk assessment, really. And that's kind of why it changes. To do it on chain, we are starting to actually offer a few products like that. A month ago or so, we announced a partnership with Kiln to do partial ETH staking. So it will start with Ethereum, but that is a truly on-chain way that you can, it's a series of 3 contracts to where wallets we are going after first, to where like inside of, think MetaMask or Phantom or some third-party wallet, you can stake any amount of ETH, and then once there's 32, it'll go through Pool, it'll actually stake it, and you'll get the rewards that way. So we are starting to move that on chain. Coinbase Wallet is one of the first wallets that should provide that. It's in a percentage rollout right now. So realistically, you should see it publicly available by the end of our mid-November, if not sooner.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thank you all.